Game 7 in Oklahoma City. It was the best of nights. It was the worst of nights. It was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Haliburton for all the marbles. And Windman, you were in the building. Haliburton started out so hot.
When he gets off to a good start, he can have magical games. This looked like it could be a magical game for Tyrese Haliburton.
Knocks down 3 threes early, J. Will, and he looks so comfortable and in rhythm. Here's one of those 3. Again, you're seeing it just in the first couple of minutes. And then the devastation strikes. We have 5 minutes to go in the first. J. Will, we'll stay with the play. Don't worry about what happens at the other end, which is a Jalen Williams dunk. That's not what's important. J. Will, down goes Haliburton.
Yeah, we've seen this so many times, from Damian Lillard to Jason Tatum, just that pushback to try to push off to get there. And first thing I recognized, I said, that's an Achilles tear.
You'll see it right here. You can see the
see
back
it pop
of the
right
leg.
there.
You can't miss it. We've become all too accustomed to this injury in sports today. Look at the reaction there. The towel's over his head. Windman, you were in the arena. We'll talk about it at great length. The game would, of course, must go on. Pascal Siakam trying to fire up his teammates. And J. Will, Indy actually would work their way to a 1-point lead at halftime.
Yeah, it felt like a poorly played second quarter after all that happened, but Indy was still in position to win this game, and momentum was in their favor.
Yeah, you saw Mathurin, who had 24. This is Hartenstein with a good bucket for OKC, and on the other end, it's Andrew Nembhard, who would score 15. So the Pacers up 48-47 at the half. And then the third quarter happened, and Windy, it all just went completely in OKC's direction.
This looked like a lot of games where the Thunder won this year, and they won 84 of them, concluding the playoffs. Turnovers lead to offense. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander cooking.
Yeah, SGA would score 29 on the night. That's J-Dub there knocking his shot down. Thunder by 9. And then, Allen, it was the signature defense for OKC getting so much of it done.
Yeah, the turnovers, what they do, and they force you. That just before we just saw a couple of threes. That 9-0 run really opened the game up, and it allowed the Thunder to kind of exhale, got into their defense, and then the game got out of hand for the Pacers.
Thunder by 13 after 3. Then here's more from SGA. OKC is pulling away. SGA would be scoring. You would also be dishing it here. J-Dub, who would score 20, and now they can smell it in the building. Thunder by 21. Indy would cut it to 10, Windy, in the fourth quarter.
I'm sorry to say, as I was watching this, I'm wondering what would happen if Tyrese was still there, because you know this was the zone where he would have led back the comeback.
Instead, it's Chet Holmgren with a dagger, and the celebration is on. For the first time in Oklahoma City, the Thunder are the champions. SGA is the finals MVP. The best team in basketball from the moment they threw up the first opening tip in October winds up raising the trophy. And for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he puts the finishing touches on what will go down as one of the great seasons in NBA history. He's the 4th player to win the scoring title, the MVP, and the NBA title in the same season. You see the company that he keeps. It's Shaq, it's Alcindor, and it's Michael Jordan 4 times. When it was over, here's SGA with Lisa Salters.
A lot of hard work, a lot of hours in the gym. This isn't just a win for me. This is a win for my family. This is a win for my friends. This is a win for everybody that was in my corner growing up. This is a win for the fans, the best fans in the world. Love you guys.
Not so long ago, Shai, this was a 22-win team. So what does it mean to you now to be standing here as a champion?
Yeah, it means everything. It's why you play the sport. You play the sport to win. You play every sport to win. We have a team full of competitors. We did what it took this year to be champions, and we deserve this. We rose to the moment, and here we are.
We have so much to dive into here. And Windy, I do want to start with you because you were there. It really does feel like a tale of 2 stories on this morning, which is a shame because the Thunder deserve the celebration.
Yes, I don't want to take anything away from the Thunder. They are such a great team. They did such a good job in this series, bouncing back. They played a quality game last night to finish off a brilliant season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander delivered what you want from an MVP in this moment. I mean, the man averaged 30 points in the finals. And they got good contributions from around the team, Chet Holmgren and everything. The crowd was spectacular from an hour before the game when they got in there. But I will never forget the what if of this game. And I'm just a personal devastation to see Tyrese go down because you know he's trying to play through it. He's doing something because he knows it's a possibility of a once-in-a-lifetime moment. and everybody in the building. I mean, you have to understand, in this building, they stand and they cheer and they hit these noisemakers before the players even come out to warm up. And as soon as everybody realized what had happened, they all know he had a calf injury. Everybody knew. They all saw what happened on the replay. As he can't put his weight on it, everybody in the building knows what's going on. Both teams were affected. The rest of that first half was just off. The vibe in the building was off. And so you're watching this extremely high-value game, Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and you've got a sick feeling in your stomach. I will never get over the odd feeling and the uncomfortableness of the way that felt.
All right, so let's just follow that from, go ahead, Jay.
I feel like we have to be able to compartmentalize it, right? And we didn't take anything away from Kawhi Leonard, right? Kawhi Leonard was a world champion, even though we saw that happen with KD. I think, first off, we have to, there's no asterisk next to this game. Like, injuries are part of the game. Yeah. It happens. It makes us feel horrible. We all feel devastated for Tyrese Haliburton this morning, but OKC still won a world championship, and I literally feel as if Sam Presti has the best rebuild in the modern NBA era for what he's been able to put together with the Paul George trade, what he's been able to get finding J-Dub with the 12th pick, Chet Holmgren sitting him out for a year, to put this roster construction together to lead to a championship, one of the best defensive teams we've seen historically, maybe top 5 ever in the NBA. We have to give them their flowers off the top.
I think the simple thing is it's amazing to think that the Warriors dynasty ended on an injury like this. And a new dynasty might begin with an injury like this that obviously they took advantage of and won the championship. Think about that, because we've had, this one champion for 9 years going on here, and it's been nice parity, but this Thunder team is very Spursy. They feel like they're very young. They're the youngest, second youngest to win. And the way they're built makes you feel like this is not the last time we're going to see them at this stage. So maybe you want to put an asterisk on it, maybe you don't. But the point is that don't think you're not going to see this team again.
For sure. Now, look, the story this morning is going to be about the Haliburton injury and the what if of it all. History will show the Thunder are the champions. That's never to be in question. The Raptors were the champions that year, and that will never be in question. But you and I were on the next morning. You were on the plane with KD flying back after the injury to his Achilles. That was all we talked about that day, because in the reality, that's what it felt like was the story. Keith, I want to come to you because you told us the other day you were on the floor with Anthony Davis when you were playing together in LA, when you guys were the defending NBA champs, and he suffered the injury, and you all knew. Can you describe what it's like to be on the team when you see your guy, the guy you are counting on to lead you, go down the way you did with AD that time and the way they did with Tyrese last night?
I have to agree with Wendy on this, man. Like when things like that happen, it takes the energy out of the building. Obviously, it's a Game 7, right? When it happened with me, when it happened to AD, it was the first round of the playoffs. So this magnitude of game is a lot different, right? And you can see it in the players. Nobody really could find their footing during that little second quarter spurt, right? Indiana tried to get it together where, with the emotional, and OKC was just still kind of in shock as long as with the fans. So that feeling, it kind of slowed the game, right? And not to take anything away from OKC, but I feel like, man, we were cheated out of a classic, man. It's hard to watch, Haliburton go down with how good he was playing to start the game off, man. It was one of those things where, as a fan of the game, just felt like we was cheated out of the classic. And not to take nothing away from OKC. They had a great season. They was having a great game, but the way the game looked like it was going to go down to the wire, man. And, I just want to say, sorry to Haliburton, man. You had a great season, brother, and, you just got to keep pressing forward, man.
Limping. He was crying. And I don't think he was crying just because of the pain. I think he was crying at the missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that's what the emotion was pouring out of him. And I think the Pacers were feeling the same thing.
You saw him pounding the court saying, no, no, no.
There he is. There you see Mike Green standing there watching as he goes out with the crutches last night into what is an uncertain future for him, of course, in so many ways. We would expect this to be a situation where he'll have surgery quickly and all that. Let's do that side of it. There is nothing to be taken away from the Thunder. No one is doing that here. They are the champions. They deserve to wear that crown, and they will wear it until next year at minimum, and we'll talk about the possibility that this could be the beginning of something special. But let's hear from the Indiana side of it here, starting with Rick Carlisle on their emotions when they saw Tyrese go down.
What happened with Tyrese is just all of our hearts dropped, but he will be back.
Obviously, it hurts. It hurts because, we couldn't get it done, you know, and I wanted it so bad for him, and just because I know that, you know, he gave us everything, you know, everything he had, and it just hurts that he you know, he couldn't see it through with us.
We need a tie out there, and he's been good for us all year, and for him to go down beginning a game like that, it's like it sucked the soul out of us. I ain't gonna say out of everybody, but I don't feel like I played good because I was thinking about it the whole day, and I felt like it was my fault.
You were there, and you were telling me as we were talking before the show this morning, you saw some of their front office people and everything like that. I mean, just the devastation. Look, whoever lost this game, I watched the whole pregame show. Guys were great last night, first on ESPN, then on ABC, talking about the devastation of losing this game. Bob Myers, in particular, was talking about having been on the losing end of the last Game 7 we had in the NBA Finals. He said, this game is going to end with both sides crying, you know, one of the happy tears and the other. You don't foresee something like this. But the point is that I wanted to make, because you brought it up to me this morning, Haliburton played knowing about these risks, right? He talked about this a lot before Game 6.
Yeah, he was asked, like, do you think this is smart? Because this was an injury. Like, look, there were 23 documented cases of calf strains in the NBA this year. 22 players missed time. When you have an injury like this, you get shut down. You get shut down because you're afraid of something catastrophic. And again, Haliburton's history is when he gets off to a good start in a game, he's awesome. Like, there's some stats about what happens when he makes his first shot. Like, he very well could have been on his way to a 35-point masterpiece because you could see that environment was very intense last night, and he was pulling it out of the crowd. He was already taking it out of the crowd. The Pacers, who we thought, oh man, how are they going to manage this situation? They were already getting a footing because he was playing so well. And so that's the loss. The loss isn't just the game. The loss isn't just what happens next season. The loss is what this could have actually been the beginning of for Tyrese in this moment. And as he's pounding the court, all of that is on his mind. When he's saying no, 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 he's not just reacting to the injury. He's reacting to the fact that he felt the hot hand. Mm-hmm. He felt what was going. He was going to the basket to score again because they were closing out that play. He's driving to the basket because in the huddle right before that, Daigneault is telling his team, get up on Haliburton. Get up on Haliburton. Yeah. I don't care if he's 5 feet back. He drove because they were closing out on him. He's like, here I go. Now I'm going to cook him driving to the basket. And so all of that is why it creates such a visceral reaction. And by the way, I don't think it's comparable to KD because the KD injury, while devastating, the Warriors are down 3-1 in that series.
Yeah.
This is Game 7. He's on the way to potentially the moment of his life here.
Yeah, different magnitudes, different stories. You can also say that their record is like 35-4 or something astronomical when he scores 20 or more points with Tyrese Haliburton and 9 in the first opening minutes of the game. The thing that was interesting, though, is this is a weight that players have to carry in these significant moments. And we've seen multiple players have to go through that, whether it was the KD situation, whether it was Aaron Gordon this year playing out there, right, with something strained, whether it was Steph Curry choosing not to play. So I think it's one of those things that you have to carry that weight yourself, understanding that, hey, look, these are the repercussions. But I just want kudos to this dude for getting out there in a Game 7 and just fighting for it. Knowing that you hate to see it, we all hate the feeling of it. It's something that you have to rationalize, but he played.
You respect it.
You respect it.
Spartan mentality. You come back with your shield or on it. And that's exactly what you expect out of an athlete at that level, especially at this level of the league, of the championship level, a championship game, which literally this was. For him to be out there, knowing the repercussions, the possibilities, and all that stuff, nothing but respect.
Keith, you said you did it, right? We talked about this last week. I mean, I don't want to suggest we foresaw this. It wasn't hard to see coming. The guy's got a calf strain, and he's playing immediately thereafter. This was the obvious risk all along. And you see him play so well in Game 6, and you're thinking, oh, were they playing possum with the injury and all that? And then boom, down he goes.
But I just want to say real quick, it's not the obvious. I mean, you know how many people were like, he better get out there and play?
No.
He better get out there and play.
But this was the obvious risk.
No, obviously,
what you were afraid of.
Yes, he's the one thinking about that, not the general public to the most part.
Right, but the player's mentality, we talked about it all last week. You're going to have to take his helmet away, all that stuff. And Keith, you were telling us you did it. You played with an injury like this. In a Game 7 yourself once upon a time with a foot, and it wound up, basically you weren't right for 2 years, you told us.
Yeah, man, but like I said earlier, the magnitude of my game and this game is a lot different, man. You know, as you can see the injury right here. Again, like I said before, it's one of those things where it's the player sometimes had to be saved from himself. But look, Haliburton, man, he had a great game 6. So, you know, the trajectory of having a good game 7 was there. You know, we didn't see no lack of movement in game 6. So it was one of those things where you can say, like, you know, he moved great in game 6. You know, you can do it again in game 7. And that was kind of the idea, right? But for me, is the long-term effect of, like I said, like how it took me 2 years to get back together. Does this change? This is going to change the trajectory of how Indiana looks next year and maybe the year after that, right? Because a whole year can change a lot with this team.
Absolutely.
And that's the big thing. I mean, obviously it's game 7 and you want to play and it's the highest level. But now that this has happened, looking forward, I think, you know, it's going to take an effect on Indiana, how they're going to look. Like, what should they do with the salary? Should they go over the cap? Like next year is just going to be a big what if with them.
Eastern Conference. This is not today's conversation, but with Jason Tatum going down in Boston and Damian Lillard going down in Milwaukee and now Tyrese Haliburton going down in Indiana, we will get to a point where it's appropriate to talk about what the East looks like going forward. But this is not that moment. Cindy, let's put up A23. Last night will be remembered as Game 7 and the end of this year's championship round. It also may be remembered as the beginning of a dynasty in the NBA. That's not impossible. A23, please. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the second youngest championship team in the shot clock era when you weigh it by the number of minutes that their players played in the postseason. But what I want you to look carefully at this screen. The only younger team was the Bill Walton Trailblazers. But look what all the other years are on here. We're going back, the most recent team on this screen was 45 years ago. So the point I'm making is, in what we would consider, Windy, to be the modern era of the NBA, this is by a wide margin the youngest team to win the championship. So it is worth saying, OKC, they break through. The last time this franchise won a championship, they were the Seattle Supersonics. Do you think that we saw the beginning, just the beginning, of what this group is capable of?
Quite possibly. Last night was the 7th consecutive year we've had a different champion. That's never happened in NBA history where we've had different champions every single year. It is very much the age of parity. But does it happen on the verge of a new team, a new dynasty coming over? Because guess what? 1 week from today, the new league year rolls over. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams are all in position in the next few weeks to sign long-term contract extensions, locking themselves in. This team has stored up a bunch of draft picks because, yes, I don't believe they'll be able to keep all these supporting players under the new rules, but they will be able to continue to draft. Guys, they've got the number 15 pick in this draft on Wednesday, and they have a player that sat out, Nikola Topic, who had a torn ACL last year. He is going to come in and probably immediately join the rotation. They were able to use a pick on him last year because they knew they didn't need him this season. So this team is set up. Now, nothing is guaranteed, obviously, but we have not seen a team set up with players under controllable contracts like this since the Warriors back when they won a decade ago.
Just think about how masterful Sam Presti has been with the amount of first-round picks they still have, with the amount of cap space they still have, and in fact, he's going to lock in these 3 players. But I will say, with so much player movement, I'm not sure this is a dynasty yet. I still think there's some big questions for them. Scoring, having scoring droughts, right? Obviously, SGA, a guy double-digit assists in games 2, 5, and 7, in which they played their best. But their offense still becomes stagnant. And one of the things that makes this team so good is their depth that they have defensively with some of those pieces. Alex Caruso made critical threes last night. Lou Dort made some buckets, great defensive players. I'm not sure you can maintain that depth over and over. This feels like a special team.
The challenge, of course, and three-point shooting to me is if you're going to find an area of weakness, because when they make their threes, they're almost impossible to beat. That third quarter, they made 3 straight threes, and they kind of ran from there. But what the great front offices can do, what Windy said, you've got your 3 main pieces. It's similar to one of the teams on that list, the early 80s Lakers. And you had 3 young players that you could build with and go forward with, and that's all you need. And the smart GMs know how to take the peripheral pieces and just keep replacing them. You saw that in Golden State. San Antonio, for many years, they had their middle, they had their core, but they just kept fixing or changing the pieces out around them that extended what was now, a 15-year run of winning championships and being an elite team. And that's what I think, that's why I call them Spursy. I think the Thunder are more on that plane than they are just a quick meteor or 2-3 in a row.
A little later in this hour, we're going to get into the fact that the team that finished second in the Western Conference this year added Kevin Durant yesterday.
Yes.
So I guess that is worth throwing into the conversation about whether or not this is the beginning of a dynasty. But how do you see it, Markieff, when you look at this young team, a team that many, including you, and there's no secrets here, you wondered, you questioned whether or not they were ready to do it because of their youth and inexperience. Now that they've gotten this thing under their belt, champions usually expand a little bit on at least that level, particularly the young ones like this. Do they look like something special for the next half decade or so?
Definitely they look like something special, and the unique thing about them is that they have so much flexibility in the front office with Sam Presti and the way they set this team up, right? The best thing is they can continue to grow. Like, you don't know what the other teams are going to look like next year with all the movement in free agency, but you know what this team is going to look like. They get a chance to be better defensively. They get a chance to expand their offensive game. So I'm excited for this team, man. I honestly think that, it could be a start of a dynasty with the way the flexibility they have in this team. They lock up those top three guys. You have Alex Caruso for a couple more years. You have the big fella for a couple more years. So you really in prime position to make another run at it without losing your flexibility like a lot of these teams will have to.
They're so young. Windy, I'm laughing because I was reminded of something you told us when we saw the champagne celebration in the locker room.
Alex Caruso had to teach them how to open the champagne bottles. They didn't know how. Jalen Williams had never tasted champagne before. He never had it. This is the first moment Jalen Williams ever had champagne, was celebrating an NBA championship. That's
He's only been old enough for like a year.
Caruso said he finally got a real one, not in the bubble.
What were you saying? Wendy, go ahead.
Yeah, he said it. I didn't say it. He said it. I didn't say it.
Come on now. You started trouble.
No, I'm saying what Alex said, not me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Keith.
Come on, AC, man. Why you got to do us like that, man? Come on, man.
No, the bubble championship, I've always said it should count twice.
Yes, I agree.
The circumstances were ridiculous, but let's not get ourselves sidetracked there. It is a good indication, and Alan, you've started to say, of just how ridiculously young this group is.
Yeah, you saw Chet Holmgren couldn't figure out how to open the bottle to a point where he was trying to open it on the side of a table.
That's a beer cap.
That is not
a bottle cap.
Champagne, right? But it does give you that indication. But it also shows you, to me, this breaking through like they did this year as a young team. Remember, last year they had to go through the heartbreak of a loss on the way. Breaking through this year almost gives them that confidence now of, okay, now you've done it. Confidence comes from demonstrated performance. They have now done it now. That almost makes them even more dangerous with the fact that the belief now, the questions of whether they can, that's been answered.
Also, just for the record, Chet Holmgren sat out for a year.
Yep.
Like think about that vision, that foresight by Sam Presti.
How many franchises can do things like that?
And by the way, the upside for him, you're still watching him sometimes find his way offensively with spots on the floor, but defensively, he alters so many shots at the rim. So the ceiling for him is super high.
Oh, yeah.
And he hasn't even begun to touch the surface of that rim.
You're saying he's going to become a much better player.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
Same with the growth of J-Dub, too. I mean, they're both coming into their own as players.
And SGA, let's sort of for the moment here put this ribbon on it. SGA just completed, we'll finish this part of the discussion where it began. SGA just completed by a variety of standards one of the greatest seasons in NBA history.
MLB, Mike, Larry, Bill, Michael Jordan Trophy for MVP, Larry O'Brien Trophy, Bill Russell Trophy last night. He also won the Oscar Robertson Trophy, which is for Western Conference MVP, which is a new award. And 68-win team, 84 wins overall. 2 years ago, they won 42 games. Shea's runway got them to 84 wins, okay?
Yep.
That is Hall of Fame stuff. That is legendary stuff. His number will be in the rafters just next to the banner that they're going to hang next fall.
You think the Clippers will put his number in there?
The Clippers.
Too soon for that.
Why are you?
I was just wondering if we go back in time.